that family background where I knew that I was trusted. That's always one
Yeah.
thing that my family put to me, that when
Sure.
it's the right time, I'll make the right decision. Good work alone is not what it takes to
Yeah.
actually help you to grow. What I love about also working with young people is when they actually do better than what we've been able to do, because it also helps me to dream bigger,
Yeah,
right?
true.
And I think we must be authentic so that others know that we are not mechanical in how we do our work.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kinsani and I bring you faith, education, wisdom, and lifestyle content. I am very excited for this episode. We are delving into the world of CASAs and I have Onkgopotse Kotsokoane, who I believe is very talented, intelligent, and has a lot of personality. So he's not just a CASA, there's a lot of character in him. And I would like to get into his professional bio. Onkgopotse is an assurance manager with over 5 years of diverse experience in banking and capital markets, specializing in the audit of high-profile listed banking institutions in global markets, treasury, and group finance. Onkgopotse also serves as a junior advisory board member for a big firm, is it an audit firm?
Big Four, what is firm?
Yeah, Big Four audit firm, where he oversees the implementation of strategic initiatives and special projects across the firm. Welcome, Onkgopotse.
Thank you so much.
Yes, can I refer to you as Q from now on?
Yes, of course. We are good friends. You call me Q all the time.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
amazing, great. So I would like you to maybe tell us about yourself in your own terms, nothing too high level, just more of who is Onkgopotse.
Thank you. And it breaks up the professional bio that is so very strict. But before I do that, thank you so much for having me on your platform. I think what you do is incredible for young professionals. Growing up as young professionals, we want to achieve something. And what you are doing is bringing diverse voices that can help everyone really form a perspective in what actually motivates them. So thank you for seeing me as a person who can be here and say something
You're
meaningful.
welcome.
I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
So how I would describe myself? First and foremost, I am a creative. I am a creative. I'm a person who loves to create. I'm a person who loves to look at the world and see what we can do with what we have, our talents, our passions. So I definitely describe myself as a creative. I describe myself as a young professional who's very ambitious. I describe myself as a person who loves mentorship, who loves to pour into others and loves to be poured into as well by those who I look up to. And most importantly, I am a father of one cat. That is
That is fascinating.
something I'm very passionate about, that
Yeah.
I am a father, but just one cat.
You are at that age
At that age.
where you are adopting cats.
Exactly. And plants. And plants.
Okay. We are at close to. I'm counting down.
Just like embrace it.
I think it's like 35. I might just as well be like, okay, I want to be a dog mom now,
Do you see how ambitious I am? I didn't wait for 35. I did it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're young. You're very young and you are a CASA. And I wanted to find out a career in this path, right? Chartered accountancy. Is it something you knew about in high school or you always wanted to be? Okay.
Yeah. So, interesting. I didn't know what a chartered accountant does until probably my third year of university.
Shucks.
When I was in high school, I wanted to be a jazz musician. All my life, I was in
Amazing.
the Wits School of Jazz. I studied that throughout primary school, high school, and I told my parents, I want to go and study jazz. And in matric, I remember I made the decision that I'm going to apply to jazz school.
Sure.
I applied, I got in, and then a friend of mine said, becoming a chartered accountant is very difficult. People can't get in. And I thought, I'm just going to apply for the sake of it. I'm just going to apply just to show him that, we can get in. And I applied at Wits University at the time, not really thinking I'm going to do it, thinking I'm just, going to get the acceptance. It's something I could get into. Some other people had told me I would probably be a good chartered accountant, didn't know what it meant really. And then when the end of my matric year ended, then I realized that, I don't want to do jazz music. I want to do something else that honors a different part of, my passion. I really love academics. I loved reading and I was really academic in school. And I thought I want to do that, not just the creative part. It's also, again, testament to my family that everyone told me you can actually have it all. You can do both.
Yeah.
And so the first month I went to Wits and I said the only thing I applied for was this chartered accountancy. I'll give it a year. If I don't like it, I almost became a lawyer, actually. If I didn't like it, I'll switch to law.
Yeah.
And then I liked it. I got there and I really enjoyed the framework that we were learning and the fact that we were getting an introduction and learning into business as a whole, not just one particular part of it, but all the foundations of business, accounting, tax, management, accounting, finance, audit. When you know all of that, it's a very firm foundation.
Sure.
So almost became a jazz musician or a chartered accountant.
No, I think what's fascinating or interesting for me is that your parents actually encouraged you to go and be a jazz musician. And they were like, no, we're willing to fund this, you know, for a black child. You're funding a musical career.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing they would have said is like, you're not going anywhere. You're going to study law or accounting or be a doctor. You're not having this in this house.
I want to tell you, my mother, who is such an impressive person, and you know, when my parents were encouraging that, my mom, I could tell that in deep down, she says, I really want you to do something else. But she would print for me that prospectus from, you know, the UCT School of Jazz and send it to me and say, this is what you can do. And she funded, you know, my music education before, because to get into jazz school, you must have grades of music that you have done. And my parents, even though it wasn't their first choice, they're very supportive. And that is so important for me, like having that family background where I knew that I was trusted. That's always one thing that my family put to me, that when it's the right time, I'll make the right decision, and they let me make my own decisions. And I think it's important that it has also made me own what I do. Every decision that I've taken, I wasn't pushed into, I wasn't convinced into, I made it. So it gives me more passion.
Amazing. I'm so interested in the topic of putting children into some of their passions while they are investing in that. I was reading a book by Justice Ketanji Brown, and she was thrown into almost everything. Yeah. But I look at her journey to become Supreme Court of Appeal in the US, right? A justice there. How every single sort of engagement that she had or extracurricular activity sort of produced this amazing, well-rounded justice. She was doing public speaking, she was doing theater, she was in debate groups. Like, she's done so many things. And I could only imagine if somebody had invested that much in me, you know, as a child, how much more different or how much better would I have been in my journey to become, I guess, an attorney or whatever God has called me to be. So I think...
I think, you know, that's really important to have that well-rounded experiences. Like, and you speak of the Justice Ketanji. What she does when she's on leave from the Supreme Court is go on Broadway and act in a Broadway show. Like, she did that last year.
You get me.
I think it's impressive. But I think it's not just limited to what you were exposed to as a child. What I find most impressive, I work with a lot of trainees who come into the profession and it's their first job, and they say, how can I learn how to public speak? How can I learn how to present myself? How can I learn other skills to make me more well-rounded? There are other things others can do as a young professional. You throw yourself into those opportunities to practice public speaking. Toastmasters, for example, is a platform that I see many people do, they have a transformative, you know, experience in there where they come out as very solid public speakers. So what's
the platform so that we can have it down?
Toastmasters. It's called Toastmasters. And so what they do there, and I've attended a few sessions myself with a friend who invited me, they will get in there and they will talk about what are the tools you have for public speaking. They improve your vocabulary. They improve the words you can use, your skill set, your tools. And so it's not just that. I see people who start swimming at 25. I see people who start theater as 25. And you can start anything. Yeah. And if you didn't have those experiences as a young child, definitely when you have the resources to do that for yourself as an adult, heal the inner child. You know?
That's what we're trying to do, Kali. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm just thinking that there's a big difference when you guys go to varsity and you see the kids that were always supported and pushed and encouraged, and those that have to learn self-confidence at 21. And how they interact with lecturers, for example. Wouldn't interact with lecturers because, like, my English is not good enough, for example. You get into the workplace, you're like, no, I'm not meant to speak to my seniors like this. because of how you were trained at home. So it's great that we can get into it, but it does feel like it's a bit too late to get into it now. So when I look at your journey at Wits, and this is somebody who looks at it from far, and there's a lot of people who look at your life from very far, and they think that your Wits journey was very seamless. Like you just cruised, and we know accounting. The people that studied accounting science at Wits, I know most of them went through ups and downs. But for you, I really just remember it just cruising nicely. And you were a sector rep in the SRC for religious organizations on campus. You won best speaker in the Wits School of Accounting Project Diamond, and also won the EY My Legacy competition. So in which year in your university, do you think was difficult? Yeah.
Yeah. So when you speak to chartered accountants, you'll hear them speak about the ominous CTA year. So they say CTA, that's where things really, the wheels fall off in this profession.
Yeah.
The training for chartered accountancy is very rigorous. It is one that actually takes a person and transforms them. So if I look at myself when I walked into Wits as a first year, compared to when I walked out of Wits as a CTA student, it was a transformational journey of learning how to apply myself into the work, not just regurgitating, but being able to pull value from what we're doing and lead with that. So I had a relatively normal first and second year. It was good. I think that's why I stayed, and I enjoyed it so much because I was doing well. In third year, there were some mental health challenges that I encountered. It is the year that my grandfather announced to me, someone who I look up to, who shaped me more than anybody else, told me he was going through cancer and he wasn't going to be taking treatment. So he knew that, this in a couple of months, it would be the end. At that same time, then school became very, very difficult because then I was dealing with those emotional matters of knowing that my grandfather will be gone in a couple of months. So for me, third year was a lot more challenging than CTA. In fact, I had a nice time in CTA, which if I say that, it sometimes sounds like a swear word in our circles.
Yeah.
But third year, I had a really difficult time. And I remember in this time, when you speak about, those projects that I won, the competitions that I won, this was happening simultaneously as I was not doing really well in school.
That's crazy.
So in that same year of third year, when I had just not done really well in my June exams, I bombed my first ever exam ever. And I got into the EY My Legacy competition.
Sure.
And that competition was asking us to think about the legacy you want to leave. Honestly, you're asking a 20-year-old to think about the time they finished their career and what legacy and impact they want to leave in the working world. They don't even know what the working world is.
Yeah.
But it got me to really think about purpose. Okay. It got me to really think about what is the legacy that I actually want to leave. And it made me remember where I come from. That there's a reason why I came to this university, coming from a small township. When I got to Wits University, it really is the same experience I feel when I first landed in America. It's a different world when you get there. You are being trained vigorously with people of diverse backgrounds. So it wasn't the same kind of experience I'd had. And I remember that I left saying I want to improve the school that I came from. And when I got to university, I forgot, and it just became, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I forgot that I have value to give as well for the people back home, the young people that I grew up with who are still in the schooling system. So I went to the US after I won the competition. I remember sitting there listening to the global leadership of a big 4 firm. I got to meet the CEO, the CFO, and they got to impart some wisdom to me. And then at the same time, I wrote something and I said, I'm going to start a foundation.
Oh, wow.
So I started a mentorship foundation back home, and it was as simple as I got 6 young people. I said, write me essays about who you are, what you want to achieve. I bought some pizza and we sat down and we talked about how it is to go through the education system in that. And this was almost 8 years ago. They are all university graduates now working. Some actually work in my own firm. And it started a good foundation that now serves 200 young people. We hire 30 tutors. We have 3 schools we work with. So in that time when things were really difficult, what actually helped me find purpose again was looking back and reminding myself, who actually am I? And what is the passion and the purpose of me doing this? And I found that, and it made everything go so much smoother. So CTA was filled with so much passion. I had so much drive because I knew I was adding value somewhere.
Do you think your coping mechanism then, right, was doing something for other people rather than centering yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
True. Sometimes we really do think so much about ourselves that we should just get out of our own heads. That's true. That if you just look at your situation and you don't look at the context in which it's happening in, you think this is the worst experience ever. I have nothing to add to the world. But when you have something to add to the world and you remember that there are others who are looking to me, suddenly you have a different poise in how you go through life.
True.
You remember that I'm not just accountable to myself. I'm accountable, of course, to the vision and purpose that I have, to the talent and the potential that I have.
Sure.
But I'm accountable as well to those who look up to me. I'm accountable as well to those who have imparted something to me. So that was my way of dealing with it. And I think it's important for young people and young professionals to learn this model really early. That you must have people who pour into you. You must have people you share around with, your people in the same level, but it's also important to pour into others.
So good.
That model is so important. And if we actually get it right, then you become very well-rounded in the kind of experiences that you're getting. I think when you watch young professionals as well get to learn who are, younger than you are, and you see them start at work and you see them grow and you see them progress, it reminds you of where you come from. It reminds you of how much you've achieved. And so we have to always do that. Most people will say, I want to be mentored to, I want people to speak into my life. But where is that giving back to? Otherwise, the waters become stale. They don't flow. Yeah.
True. And I think it would be very selfish for us to have been blessed with opportunities and then we don't actually go back and give it back to where we come from or to the people around us. For example, you come from Ga-Rankuwa. I come from Tulamahashi. You've never been? I'm not sure if you've even been to Bushbuck Ridge.
Not really.
But you get me. I don't remember knowing lawyers as a child. Like, this is a lawyer. I don't remember that. I think the biggest careers at that time was being a doctor. And there was only one news anchor on SABC 1 who was Tonga. And we were like, okay, she's doing amazing work. But other than that, we didn't have references.
Yeah.
So to be, Nomzamo says, a tangible representation of something, I think is just amazing. Yeah.
And this is why platforms like this are so important. We need to be really good at marketing good behaviors.
True. I agree. Let's not get into that because I'm like, we are filled with everything else but goodness.
True.
In our nation also, every single place that you podcasts, it's filled with that. The news, it's filled with that we do not highlight the fact that there's actually people trying to do good.
Yeah.
And I think the more we highlight leaders, we are able to see that, we do have leaders.
Yeah.
They're just not in politics.
Yeah.
So how do we get them to want to be in politics, for example, right? To change the narrative about our country or to come up with legislation that shifts things and implementation. Actually, it's not about legislation, it's about implementation. Yeah. So it's those type of things where my goal, especially with this channel, is young people, young leaders who are doing amazing, who I believe have integrity, who I believe show up and give their best to come and share their journeys.
Yeah. Trevor Noah says something in his book, Born a Crime. He says, we dream only to the limits of our exposure. Paraphrasing, but we dream only to the limits of our exposure. And that is so important that when we expose young professionals, young people to this is what is possible, then suddenly, we don't look at Onkgopotse, who's just an audit manager at 28 and think that's great. No, you think I can actually do better than him.
Yeah.
And what I love about also working with young people is when they actually do better than what we've been able to do, because it also helps me to dream bigger, right?
True.
Seeing what others are achieving and to also see that we can achieve when we put our heads together. It's like a constellation of stars. My dream can shine as much, but when we are all shining next to each other, it's just more beautiful than having one star. Yeah.
So good. Amazing. Thanks for that cue. Okay, now let's talk about post-university. Now, you've conquered Wits and you didn't, right? You didn't go over the edge and you make it to this big audit firm. I want us to talk about articles or training. What is the purpose and the goal of articles? Where can one do their articles? When is the best time? This is it's quite a few questions, but I'll remind you.
Yeah.
When is the best time to secure articles, and what consideration should a student or somebody doing CTA have in selecting a firm to do their articles?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really important question. I think it starts off with model, right?
Yeah.
So the CAS model, the standard model that you will have the 4 years of university, 3 years undergrad, 1 year CTA, unless if you take the scenic route, then you'll have a different career, but it is standard within that. And then at the end of it, you go do your articles, usually 3 years in what we call in professional practice or out of professional practice or audit firm or in industry. And so after the 3 years in your first year, you write your ITC, your initial test of competence.
Okay.
In your second year, you write your APC, your final board exam. And then you just have 1 more year of articles where you must just go through that. And the model as well, I'll speak specifically about an audit firm. In an audit firm, the 3 years is really structured. First year, you are a first year. You are staff. You are given less complex accounts because you're being taught work acumen. You're being taught how to draft emails and how to communicate with clients and how to build relationships and rapport with those you work with, how to understand the methodology. So you're given important but less complex workbooks. In second year, you have now built up understanding of methodology. You are now thrown into highly complex work. So in all the audits, the second years are all the people who are doing the most complex work. They are thinking of the most complex areas of our valuations, of our leases, new standards that are coming out that are complex because they have understanding of methodology. They're also close enough to the university years. Their minds are still good to learn and produce work. So they really important. Third year is a supervisor year where you become auditor in charge. Now that's more training for leadership. Okay. You now supervise. So you have a team of people that you allocate work to, you keep close to, you report to your managers and clients and executives about the progress of work. So it's a really structured journey of less complex, more complex leadership now. Now you're into leadership, which is its own complexity. And so you have that in the 3 years. So how you pick where you get to do your articles, the wonderful thing about the CASA profession is that for a lot of these young professionals, they actually have the choice to pick where they want to go. You can pick the firm or you can pick, there are very few select programs you can get into. Most of them actually, it's about the choice that you make. If you identify with a particular firm, if you like their values. Most people, of course, don't do this. So when I was a first year, for example, I was so excited. I finally got into university and I thought it might be nice to just secure a job for myself. So I went and applied somewhere and went for an interview and I got a contract. I remember calling my mom saying, I got a job. I'll have work after I'm done with my studies. Sure. And she said, so quickly, you just started. It's like, yeah, I just got it. Sure. But that's not what we should be doing, right? What we should be doing is understanding the type of different cultures you are going to be in. Culture is important in your career. The type of culture that you find yourself in and whether you identify with that culture is quite important in careers. So when I was a second year, I got exposure to the firm that I'm currently with through the competition. I met people from the firm. I spent time with them in that evening that we were at the firm. I got to see around and really get the smell of the place and understand what is the place about. And I remember thinking, I identify more with this compared to the other place. And the reason for that was I got a sense that these people are very good at what they do, but it's not all they do. They're very well-rounded and they have very diverse experiences. So when you speak to them and say, what actually excites you? They are marathon runners, they are creatives, they are people who do all sorts of things, and they say, and I'm also really good at my job. And I was like, I like that.
And they are dads to cats.
Exactly. and so I really identified with them and really started asking the relevant questions about when I get into this place, what am I going to be involved in? What is going to be what keeps me motivated at work? And so I got to understand the culture and sign on to it. In my third year, I then sent a letter to my previous firm that I'd signed with, and I said, please, I'd like to be released from the contract. I want to go with this particular firm, and they did. They did. So young people who are in their CTA year should really spend a lot of time understanding the culture, understanding the purpose of where they work, what is their main clientele. Are they a financial services driven business? Are they a mining driven business? Are they consumer industries? What is the current flavor of the industry in the firm? What is the culture of the firm? What are the initiatives that the firm cares about that they're going to plug into? Because once you're able to find a culture that you can identify with, you're going to be able to just jump in there, find the right relationships, find the right initiatives that allow you to be so engaged. And when you engage with the workplace, with the other things you do, the work becomes so much more easier. So it's not a matter of, is the work difficult? Nope. It's the people that I'm with. When it's really late hours, do I like the people that I'm with? Am I having a laugh with them? Or do I really feel like I really want to go home? Because if you do that, then the work quality will speak to that. So as a third year, as a CTA student, invest time in getting to understand the different cultures, knowing what your career would look like in different places. It's also important to take opportunities. We have in our firm a business experience program that I get to lead. And every 6 months, around 100 CTA students, university students come in, and we tell them who we are, what we do. They have 4 days to really spend time with us where they get to observe. Do these people look happy where they work? And that informs a lot of their decisions. So really plug into that. LinkedIn is another one. I have never, ever rejected a message from a person who says, can I ask you about your career? And when you're a CTA student, it's amazing. You can message anyone. I have people who message senior executives and they respond because they understand that this is a young person who is driven, who wants to achieve something. I'm going to support that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, amazing tips. Why? Okay, so what's your reason, or why do you still choose to be at the audit firm you are at?
Yeah. As I said, the first important thing was when I joined, I get the sense that these people here are good at what they do. So there's quite a lot of learning. When I finished my articles, I got to go to Germany for 6 months and work in Germany. And the key takeaway from there that I got is in South Africa, most importantly, we have a very robust chartered accounting profession. That's why it's ranked number 1 globally. Best CAs in the world are from South Africa.
Good thing about South Africa.
Right? Well done to Saika and everyone who's is a part of that, because the standards are really high. The regulators, they demand a lot, and we always show up to make sure that is done. And so we always push the boundaries. So I got the sense that here is the best training ground. And the firm that I'm with is a firm where the most exciting parts of my job don't just have to do with the technical work that I'm doing. That if I don't have a busy season, I'm still very engaged, learning other skills. It's also the leaders that I work for. I am in an apprenticeship model. I'm a young apprentice, that young person that senior leaders are investing in and are showing the way. And I really understood that I'm on a transformational journey. Currently, I'm literally smack dab in the middle of my career in terms of seniority. This is middle management as it gets. So for me to be able to take the steps from junior, working professional to come here in middle management and seeing the vision for what the future can hold, I need people who can buy into what I bring to the table. And so I have a wonderful combination of leaders who invest in me, technical skills, leadership skills, skills that are going to help me learn how to influence organizations, how to bring about change, how to lead intentionally and strongly. And so when others ask me the question, why are you still in audit? Because mostly people leave around the 3-5 year mark. I'm still very engaged because I'm learning and I'm executing.
So good. I think learning and a great work environment, that makes the combination for wanting, I think for anyone for wanting to stay. Okay, so now that you're a manager, what key decisions are you involved in as an assurance manager, and what does a typical day in the life of a CASA who is only 28? Because groove, do you groove at like 12
We spoke
after
about
work?
being balanced.
Yes. So what is a typical, so if I were a student, I was like, okay, I want to be an assurance manager, I want to stay in an audit firm. What does my day look like?
Yeah. So as a manager, of course, there's a lot of flexibility. That's also one of the reasons why I love my work. There's flexibility in terms of now I get to own my schedule. I get to decide where I want to work. I get to decide where I want to be placed. Am I going to be best at home, at the office? So it's quite dynamic.
Okay.
But my typical day starts off at 5:30. I go to the gym. I go to the gym with a good friend of mine who just also finished as an audit manager. And we do that. We do some working out. And then I will come home. I love a slow morning. So there's an hour where I do nothing but walk around the house and make coffee and, do nothing, read a book, and then go to work. I usually arrive at 9 o'clock, 9:30, sometimes 10, not judging. But of course, there's flexibility. If the day doesn't demand that I'm there at 8, I won't be there at 8. And then I start my day. I have a team of trainees and assistant managers who I work with. So we'll usually start with a kickoff meeting where we talk about the progress. What is everyone encountering? My job, honestly, is to help them troubleshoot. So they will come to me with questions.
Okay.
My job is answering questions. I'm encountering this. What is the next step? And I help them look at methodology, look at who we can talk to. Do you need to talk to the client? Do I need to talk to the partner to resolve these issues, to make sure that there's progress? I spend a lot of time with clients, giving updates, writing slide decks, and explaining where we are in the process of work. I spend a lot of time drafting audit com documentation, management points documentation. That's what I usually spend time in, to actually take the work that has been done by my team, review it, make sure that it's right, make sure that it's good, and then ensure that we message it up to the executives in the right way. These hours are flexible. We have what we call busy season in our industry, usually when the listed clients will sign. So you'll have December, many listed clients sign. June, many listed clients will release their financial results 2 months after that, and that is our busy season. I do have 90-hour weeks for some time in the year. I do have hours where I will work from 9 till 10, or even later, because we are committed to making sure that these results come out on time. And if you look at the entities that we look at, as audit firms, they need to report their results. These results are important to the functioning of the capital markets, for the reliability of information that's used by decision makers. So we all are very committed, and if it takes those hours, we put in those hours. And then I have not so busy seasons where we are usually in planning for the busy season itself. There, my day can finish at 4, my day can finish at 3. But most importantly, we are party people. When it's time for us to party, we get down. And that's important, to make sure that we work hard, we play hard. It just keeps that balance, well-roundedness. That's important.
The balance. Okay, I just want to read a bit on your bio. It says that you have a track record of leadership. You continue to demonstrate commitment to advancing the next generation of professionals through AQEF, a nonprofit founded by Onkgopotse, which provides educational services and mentorship to over 200 learners currently. That is amazing. The program hires over 30 full-time tutors. Amazing. Onkgopotse also currently serves as the CFO of Mohau Center, an orphanage that is currently being built and developed. The center has raised over R1 million in donations within its first 6 months of operations under the financial directorship of Onkgopotse. His versatility in both technical expertise and leadership has made him a trusted leader in his endeavors. I mean, this is amazing.
Cheers to the people who wrote it. They know me so well.
Sure. No, it's amazing. It's amazing work. And I want us to get into some of the most impactful projects you've been involved at. And I thought this is also very impactful work. All right. It's not, I didn't just want to highlight impact within as a CASA, but outside of that, outside of your role or your profession, you're also doing amazing work. So yeah, the most impactful project you have been involved in, and what growth challenges have you encountered in corporate?
Yeah. The first one is AQEF, the African Quality Education Foundation, which I founded when I was in university in third year. It started off with 5 young people and just pizza and a chat. And then we identified what is the value we can bring in schools. One thing I also love about the chartered accounting profession is that it teaches you strategic thinking. So we went to the schools and said, instead of just tutoring learners, we're going to get tutoring now, and then in the next couple of years, we might lose funding or all of that. Let's make transformation in the institutions that we work with. So I started engaging with SGBs and the school leadership's team, the principals and the heads of departments to say, let's make strategic thinking about your schools. For example, one of the schools we worked with, they were a science school and they wanted to get specific funding into their technology department. They wanted to get some robotics learning in there, and they didn't really know how they can do that. And then we said, we're going to create a plan in terms of what do you need to meet in your school results? What do you need to meet in terms of your communication? Who do you speak to? What is the plan that you're going to have to say, we want this particular amount of funding, we want to improve these facilities. What strategic plans can we actually do to do that? Okay. And so it brings into context that we don't just tutor learners. We tutor learners because we want to get a certain percentage of performance. So we can go to corporations and say, fund the school, they're doing well in this area, let's help them improve. So that's been really important. Sure. This organization now, as I said, 200 learners, 3 schools that I work with, and I sit with the principals and we think long term. It's not just let's look at one learner, it's let's look at the system so any learner who comes into here can get value from what we do, and they will benefit from the institution itself being transformed. And so this means there are some schools that say we want to be a sports school. And that's brilliant because we have young sport talent that needs to be nurtured in schools with specific facilities and training of teachers who can do that. And when you look at the township economy, we don't have those kinds of focused schools. And so we help them see what is a talent pool, what do you want to grow in, what do you want to develop, and we do that. Okay. Now I sit on the board of Mohau Center. It's a new organization that we founded in the last year. I actually got invited to sit as the CFO to help them plan in terms of how do we raise funds for this orphanage that we want to build, and looking at, can we really use international donors? How do we reach out to them? How do we message to international donors? What do we need to have from a transparency point of view? And I'm so proud of the work that we're always doing there. As you said, we raised really good funds and we are building the center. We'll start being operational. But the point of this, again, is I'm really committed to finding young talent in places where young talent is not really given that voice. I think it's good work to go to disadvantaged communities and say there are good young people here who need to be exposed so they can dream. And so whichever initiative that is, I'm always there saying, how can we add value using our professional understanding, what we get to do for these large companies that we work for. We should be applying that same tenacity, drive, professionalism, impact in the work that we do in our communities, and we'll see we can actually transform a lot. Yeah.
So good. Amazing. Let's get into survival tips, okay?
We must thrive, not survive.
Exactly. So this can be thriving or survival tips. So surviving corporate 101, 3 tips for a trainee.
Okay. 3 tips. First one, manage your energy. Manage your energy. Because you work in an environment where, you have to show up every day. You have to show up intentionally every day. You have to manage your energy very practically. Understand what fuels you, what drains you, what keeps you energized? Do you need to go to gym every day? How do you need to eat to do this? Because what I often see is when the trainee comes into the room and their good morning is very, very flat, we're not going to have a good day. But if you come in, even in the middle of a very busy and intense season, we work many hours, and someone understands what actually fuels me, then they always bring the energy that it is needed to achieve a lot. I have trainees who understand this so well. They'll tell you in the middle of the week, I have to go for soccer. On Wednesdays at 7 o'clock, I go for soccer. And we say, yes, at 7 o'clock, they change in the audit room. They go play soccer. They come back from soccer and they're energized and we work. They really understand themselves. Even I had to learn to do that. That's why that gym in the morning is quite important. If I don't do it, I crash. If I don't eat well, I crash. So manage your energy, number one. Number two, and this is quite important, build relationships.
Okay.
Don't build superficial relationships that, you
so
must
good.
network for the point of networking. Actually care about the people that you're building relationships with. If you want to have meaningful relationships with mentors, I always say you must ask them what you can do to add value for them. That's important. When I have a mentee who I work on a passion project with, or I work with really close at work and they help me achieve one of my objectives, I'm a better mentor to them because I can see the work that we are doing together more realistically. So when you have a mentor, don't just say, I would like for you to mentor me. Ask, I would like for you to mentor me, but I want to work with you on something so you can observe me closely. Really, really important. Changes how you build relationships as a person. The third thing, and I'll reiterate again, pour into others. Really pour into others. When you have passion and when you have purpose and you know why it is that you are doing what you're doing, you are able to achieve so much more. You have a different stance in how you do your life. So those are my 3 survival tips if you really want to be well-rounded.
These are amazing. I'm taking them for myself. I'm taking them for myself. They're amazing. Branding 101, right? You have a great brand and it's very diverse. It's not just Onkgopotse, the assurance manager. It's Onkgopotse, talented, right? So what 3 branding tips you can offer a trainee?
Quite important branding tips. I think always be willing to share what you're learning with others.
Okay.
And whether that means on a public platform, when you've learned your lessons, share them.
Okay.
Be authentic. Be authentic. People can always spot when you're not being authentic. My social media presence is very authentic. I tell the jokes that I tell. When I'm singing, I am singing. I post that. And I think we must be authentic so that others know that we are not mechanical in how we do our work. We are not mechanical in how we lead our lives. If you see a mechanical person, I can promise you for sure they are going to lose a lot of passion. So be authentic in how you do your work. And also seek the consultation of others. Like you read that wonderful bio. I didn't write that. I told them what I do and they wrote that, So I you must actually engage with others who understand branding better than you do and let them actually help you with it. And that's important. What I've learned so far is good work alone is not what it takes to actually help you to grow. Good work and an ability to communicate about the good work that you have done actually sets you apart.
Amazing.
Otherwise, you become like a light under a table. And we know about lights on the table. That's not where you put a light. When you are doing good work and you're shining, you must be put at a place where that can shine well. And that's why branding is important.
Amazing. A city on a hill cannot be hidden.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, now I want to get into a bit more personal stuff. What's your prized possession? What do you value the most?
Important, huh? I think this question is quite controversial in many settings because people will tell you, don't be driven by money or don't be driven by position or don't be driven by this. I think be driven by what answers your needs, right? And this happens quite a lot with CAs who finish their articles and they ask me, what should I do? Should I stay in a place where, I'll be exposed or should I go do a cash grab, And I say, but what are your priorities? Before I answer it, I do want to set that framework to say there is no ambition that we should say to someone that's a flawed ambition, unless if it's destructive to the world, you know. Many young people are told, don't go for money, for example. But leaders don't understand that for some people, this is not just money. It's my family's ability to live securely. So for me to finish and go for an opportunity that is, of course, driven by money, it's not because I'm a greedy person. It's because I have requirements and it's family. All of a sudden, it's not money, it's family.
Yeah.
So what drives me? What drives me is learning.
Okay.
I
Amazing.
understood
So
really
your most prized position right now
Yeah.
is the opportunity to learn.
to learn.
Okay.
So you spoke about, global markets, treasury. I wasn't in global markets as a trainee. That's not the industry that I was in. It's
Okay.
highly complex, very complex environment of the bank. And I said, that's exactly where I want to go. I want to go to the most complex part and learn and build my career in that part. So it's being driven by what I want to learn. I want to have very deep technical skills. And so my decisions in my career has been driven actually by that. When there have been shiny offers to go and do other work that will not be as complex, that will not be, but it'll be a money grab,
Yeah.
I've been able to say, actually, no, I want to work in this industry that actually exposes me to a lot. And what I always see in the profession is money always follow. Money will always follow your passion. And if you're the best at what you do, you'll be remunerated for it really well. There are other professions out there that we don't think people in those professions are actually living well, but they make more than other people who we think they are, you know. And that's because they're the best at what they do. And so everybody calls them and they remunerate them well for it. So be driven by what you want to achieve. But if that's not your ambition, don't feel bad. Just make context for what it is that you are going for. Yeah.
No, someone speaks about people must know what to come to you for, right? That's value.
Yeah.
That's why you could earn a lot more because you're the best at it. So everyone knows if I want a leather jacket, this is the best place to get leather jackets. Only Kenzani in the whole of Bushbuckridge makes leather jackets. So all those businesses will flock to Kenzani. So I think it just reminded me of that. Again, something less serious, a book recommendation that you have?
I read a lot. Currently, I'm reading Stephen Fry's series on Greek mythology. That's what I spend a lot of my time reading about.
Nice.
Mythos and the other books that he's released in that series. I think it's a wonderful, fantastic series to read. Dreams from My Father by Barack Obama is a book that really had an impact on me. I remember I read it, I think, in almost one night. It was just a wonderful recollection of a young black man growing, healing from his father wound, healing from the experiences that he's had with race in America, learning to get into a professional space. I think it's a wonderful book, especially for young black men to read. I like to read a lot of poetry. I like Nikki Giovanni quite a lot. She recently passed on. That's someone I really, if I'm sitting down and I want to be inspired, I'll open a poem and I'll read it. So just a couple of things there that I like to read.
Interesting. You recommended, I think, in varsity.
Yes.
I think it was you, Arundhatu Roy's The God of Small Things.
Oh my gosh.
I read that book because of you, by the way. Yeah.
And you should read the follow-up book, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. That's one of my all-time favorite authors, Arundhati Roy. She is just amazing. That book, The God of Small Things, it's just beautifully written. It's a wonderful story, about siblings and growing up and really understanding pain. And it's one of those books that I read and honestly I wept for a couple of days. Beautiful. So I'm glad that someone takes my recommendation.
No, I actually enjoyed it. I don't have a background of India at the time, and is it the caste or caste system, and just the politics at the time of what was happening, and just you have this love story. I think that was the painful part.
Yeah,
this love story where this woman falls in love with this man, but she can't be with this man because,
it's a beautiful book.
Yeah, but
it's one of my all-time favorites.
I think it really just brings us back to humanness at the end of the day. That's at the center of it. Humanity. Yeah. Our last and final question is, what is your vision for South Africa? This is in case you run for politics, and then I'm going to use this clip that I was the one that interviewed him first.
Oh my gosh. I should say I do not have ambitions for public office. I do not say that.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of impact I can make in the private sector. My ambitions. When people talk about ambitions, they, especially in our stage of careers, they talk about, I want to be a partner before 30. I want to be an executive before 35. I don't see it in that way. I see it as I want to have a particular impact on the country. My vision for South Africa, and you will see from the projects that I'm involved in, I want a township economy that is vibrant. I want to see schools and townships producing the best talent. I want kids who are in township, schools to have opportunities and abilities to rise and do amazing things, because I think we lose a lot of talent there.
Yeah.
So that's my vision, and I'll forever be driven by that. So even if you look at the work that I do, I get to work with young people who are starting their jobs day one. And I get to teach them how to write their first email, how to interact with their first client. And if we do our work well there, we get to have impact on the market, because these young people spend 3 years with us where they learn the values of work. And if we teach them the right thing, they go out there and make a big impact. Same thing with the township that I work with, the township schools that I work with. If the institutions are good and they give the children exposure and confidence, then they can go out in the world and do some transformational things. That's my vision. Yeah.
So good. Wow. Q, I am honored to have you. It's been a pleasure. I am inspired. I'm learning a lot. I'm coming to get more tips for branding and surviving and running NGOs and companies. And, I think I've learned a lot. And I hope this will not just speak to CASAs. I think it will reach a lot more people than just CASAs. And we're so honored to have you here. Thank you so much. And guys, this brings us to the end of our first CASA feature, Onkgopotse, and have a good day.